looking at these mock drafts, I want to bring it up again. I kind of want to stir up the conversation again. But in the top 5, you mentioned that both the Thompson twins are in there for ESPN's mock draft, and they have them above Brandon Miller. And I know you guys have some very strong thoughts about Brandon Miller being anywhere but 3, and you guys were even talking about the potential that he might be better than Scoot.
Yeah, I mean, the Thompson twins definitely have their pros as a prospect, but I feel like Brandon Miller, he has just shown so much consistency at a higher level of competition in the SEC versus the overtime elite schedule. So it's kind of baffling that somebody thinks that the Thompson twins have shown that much in the overtime elite league where they have both of them over Brandon Miller, but I definitely do not agree with that.
I think, too, also for me, the thing with the Thompson brothers, specifically with Amen Thompson, I don't understand why everybody seems to have him as like a lock at number 3. Like, I get that he's a good athletic and playmaking wing. Like, that's a good trait to have. But for me, too, I also just think, like, I feel like what he's doing at overtime is a little kind of like played up because it's kind of flashy, if that makes sense. And I think if he were doing that in college, it would kind of be different. But I also just think about the archetypes that kind of both of them have. And I don't really see them being guys that are like, you know, franchise superstars. And they're also guys who can't really like shoot that well. And we're seeing now how important it is to be shooters in this league. And they're a guy, they kind of remind me of like Ja Morant, where like if you sag off, like they'll shoot it, but they can't really, you know, create, if that makes sense. And I don't know if they necessarily have the same paint dominance that Ja has. And I feel like, too, we like to say, like, oh, they can just get better at shooting. But you really look at it across history, and, like, if you don't come into the league being able to shoot, like, statistically, you're not going to get that much better. Mm-hmm. So it's just, like, it's just one of those things where I feel like they both have really high floors, but I'm not sure that they're going to get a whole lot better. But that's just me.
And also just thinking back in history, how many times have we seen two brothers, let alone twins, be like both of them be good to elite players? Like the Morris twins in their career, they've been, you know, solid for years now, but no one's really looking at Markieff and Marcus Morris as number 2 options on a championship team or even number 1. I mean, yeah, they're really pretty solid players and they're definitely worth being on a roster and a good team, but to draft somebody like Amen Thompson at number 3 over Brandon Miller and kind of hope that he can lead your team to the promised land just historically hasn't really worked out.
Yeah. I feel like they both need complementary pieces to really help them get the most out of them. I feel like they'll be good like second, third options maybe.
Now I will say, my favorite scenario with them would be Amen Thompson going to the Magic at like 5, let's say, and then maybe Asar goes to the Magic as well at 11, and you can kind of team them up like they have been pretty much their whole life. And, you know, maybe them going through this process together will be impactful for their development, just so that they have somebody that's like, they're your blood. They know day in and day out what you're going through. And I think that could be a really good support system for them, especially if they're struggling in their rookie year.
So you'd like to see them play together?
I would. I think that would be fun. We never got to see LaMelo and Lonzo play together in the NBA level so far. I don't think we saw the Morris twins play on the same team in the NBA.
I think they were on the Suns for a bit, but it was when they were a lot younger.
So it would be really fun to see kind of this modern era brother duo kind of take the court together.
And one last thing, how do you guys you got a 6'8", 200-pound borderline, well, I wouldn't say linebacker build, but Brandon Miller is a big forward and he shoots the lights out. Mm-hmm. I mean, how crucial is that to the NBA these days, especially with, like you guys said, the Thompson twins might need to get their shooting game up?
I feel like just look at okay, I look at the potential of the Thompson brothers and I look at the potential of Brandon Miller. And if Brandon Miller, like, say, like, he reaches the full potential that people say he has, that's more of a player that could be kind of closer to a finals MVP type of player than I'd say maybe the Thompson brothers are. That might be a hot take. I don't really know. But that's just my thought process and how I view it.
I think the Thompsons remind me a lot of Jalen Green because they're not elite shooters yet, but they're not going to shy away from taking them, and they still rely on that like lankiness and athleticism when they're going to the rim, which is something that Jalen Green does. And I feel like Brandon Miller is more similar to like the jump shooting scorers like Michael Porter Jr. or even like Kevin Durant at times. So it's really just what you value. Do you value like that 3-4 that can shoot, or do you value kind of like a tweener point guard, shooting guard that can get to the rim? I feel like Brandon Miller's archetype has already been proven to be a winning one. And so far, we'll have to see if the Thompson twins can elevate what their archetype is.